Welcome to this session of the CASSINI Ireland Hackathon, live from the National Space Centre at Elfordstown Earth Station in Cork. Brought to you in partnership with Munster Technological University and Blackrock Castle Observatory, and proudly sponsored by Black Knight. CASSINI is the European Commission's new programme to support space-based entrepreneurs. Our theme is digitising green spaces, using satellite data and signals to discover your city, stay fit and healthy, and protect our rural areas. Join the CASSINI Hackathon to solve global challenges and design the future of green spaces.
Here we go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I would like to introduce Dr. Maire O Sullivan, who is a lecturer in the Department of Marketing and International Business at our sponsor partner, Munster Technological University, which was previously the Cork Institute of Technology. She has also been a lecturer in marketing and advertising at Edge Hill Business School in the UK and has a PhD from University College Cork, everybody's favorite local university. Dr. O'Sullivan, take it away.
Well, you can't say I'm from MTU, your sponsor institution, and then say UCC is your favorite local university.
It's my closest university.
It's your closest university.
MTU is a little further down the road. Yeah,
that's a better take.
Okay.
So I am a lecturer in consumer behavior and marketing at MTU. In terms of startups, I have taken a startup from sort of kitchen table to multi-million euro turnover per year. So I do have some experience in the sort of startup area as well. And in industry, I've worked on both the client and brand side as marketing manager. So today I'm just going to talk you through pitching. A lot of this is going to seem like common sense, to be honest. However, it's really good to reiterate these things and just make sure that everyone is on the same page, because I have seen some truly terrible pitches when you would think that this is very straightforward.
I feel like we've all been there, like the really painful pitch.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure, look, we've spent a year and a half in our houses. People have been on Zooms now and they know what makes a good presentation and what makes a bad presentation. We're all sick to death of looking at PowerPoint slides. So we have strong opinions at this point. But for some reason, when it comes to like doing this or making this ourselves, sometimes we have this moment where we just don't follow our own rules that we should have, I guess. So I'm going to share my screen and pull up a PowerPoint. That's not the right one.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it has a title. I'm sure it does have a title and a subtitle.
It does, but that's a blank PowerPoint. So this one called pitching might be a better bet.
That might be. It might be.
Mm-hmm. Again, you would think that having been on Zoom for a year and a half, that we would all be on top of this.
Yeah, speaking of not being on top of it for your own presentation, I actually think that is even if you know the rules, struggling to apply them appropriately to yourself and your own pitch is a form of performance anxiety.
Yes, and I also think that when you're really passionate about something, sometimes you almost, you might go into it too much and be too full on. Or
like oversharing about your special interests on a first date.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you may also assume that the audience will understand immediately how amazing this thing that you think is amazing is.
Right.
So I think those are things that probably are in the slides, but we're going to jump right in here. Why does the subtitle appear? It shouldn't. But for an overview, what we're going to look at is, first of all, what you're asked for. Then we're going to look through some tips. I have an exercise for you guys, but we will see if it works in the webinar format. It may not. And then I have some sample pitch decks for you to look at and an exercise based on those. And again, we'll see if that works in the webinar format. So you're asked for a 5-minute presentation plus a 2-minute video. And the really key points that you need to hit are why you're here with them. So the project is to leverage EU space data and signals to access, understand, and protect our natural spaces. And the 3 themes that you could be there to to talk about are discovering your city, staying fit and healthy, protecting our rural area. And in this pitch, your goal is to make it clear why your project is the one that they cannot not fund. So be very, very clear about how you're going to leverage the EU space data, which one of these particular channels you're going down and which one you fit into, and also why your project is so amazing.
The amazingest.
The amazingest, in fact, yes. So if you've ever heard of the 10-20-30 rule, that is the idea that for a 20-minute presentation, you should have no more than 10 slides, and they should be at around 30-point font. So for a 5-minute presentation, you should really have no more than 5 slides. And when I say that you should have no more than 5 slides, that doesn't mean, okay, well, I need to take my 28 slides that I made and cram all that content into 5 slides. One of the big mistakes that we see is that people will try to they'll distract from their own message with slides.
Yes.
So keeping your slides very clean, very simple, and letting yourself actually do the talking is really key here. So I would recommend a layout of something like, number 1, a cover slide with the project title and your names, and that's going to pop up first while you're kind of, saying hello and introducing yourself. And if there's any kind of delay in, Zoom issues or whatever, you can leave that on screen during that time. The core of the idea, and we're going to talk about what I mean by that, but really it is the one sentence that sums up this project. And then what are the kind of most important pointers? That's slide 2. Slide 3 is going to be the team behind the presentation, and that's going to be talking about why you're the person to do this, why they shouldn't go and hire someone else to do this thing that you've thought of. 4 would be fleshing it out, some more details, maybe it's some pictures, maybe it's some graphs, depending on what exactly your idea is. And number 5 would be projected outcomes. And again, explaining how this exactly fits the criteria that the CASSINI program is trying to achieve.
Are we going through each one of these?
Yes,
okay.
Pretty much. Well, not cover slide. I assume people know what their names are. But yeah. So the really key points to hit in a pitch are what is the need or the problem that your project addresses? What's your solution to the problem? How are you going to implement it? Why is your team, as we said, better than anybody else? How will EU space benefit? And that is really key. So again, keeping in mind the goals of the CASSINI Hackathon project, how do you fit that model? How much will it cost? It's a nice thing to know if you can have some estimates on that. So when we talk about pitching your projects, I'm putting up the Matt LeBlanc picture. I don't know if everyone here is aware, but Matt LeBlanc has really gone viral on Irish social media in the last couple of weeks because he looks like everybody's uncle from down the country in the Friends reunion.
At the pub, though. He specifically looks like everybody's uncle down the country at the pub.
Or at a funeral. I also feel, just, after, when you go for drinks after a funeral, which is a very Irish thing to do. Be in someone's house, but, So I'm calling this the uncle test, right? And I need you to picture explaining this to Uncle Matty. And is Uncle Matty, and he's been called Matty Bawn because he's Matt LeBlanc and Bawn is white and Irish. And LeBlanc, yeah. So Matty Bawn, can you explain this to your Uncle Matty? You're a subject area expert, but the people that are listening to this may be experts in quite different fields from you, okay? If you're an astrophysicist and someone is talking to you about ecology, like you have a common language, but you're not reading from exactly the same book, okay? Yeah. So you need to be able to explain this project in one sentence that your uncle can understand around Christmas dinner after potentially he's had a few drinks.
Yep.
Okay.
And that is what we traditionally call the elevator pitch, right? Yeah. Like if you're stuck in an elevator with an investor or in an elevator with an investor and you have the lift journey of 12 stories to pitch your startup to this potential investor, what is the tweet-sized summary of your business proposition?
And I'm giving you an even faster time. I'm putting you in a really fast lift.
A really fast
You have
lift.
one sentence to catch someone's attention.
Yeah.
And like, if you can't do that, it can actually be good to sit down with a layperson and work this out. There's a great podcast called The Missing Crypto Queen. And within it, the journalist talks about how much trouble he had explaining cryptocurrency and blockchain to a lay audience. And so what he did was keep going back to his mum and saying, okay, if I say this,
Yep.
what do you understand? Now explain it back to me.
Yeah.
And if mum was able to explain it back, he was like, yeah, okay, I think I'm on a winner here.
Yeah, which is fair.
So really it is just about saying, okay, a lay person who's not in my field, do they understand what I'm talking about? And then later in the slideshow, you can go into more detail and you can be a little bit more technical. Obviously, within 5 minutes, there's a limit to how much of the deep science you need to get into here. But like, you can talk about how you're going to, I don't know, survey the boundary between red squirrels and gray squirrels or something using this satellite data. I know someone whose PhD is in that. That's why I'm not using satellite data. She went out and caught a lot of angry squirrels. But like, if this was the thing, then what you're explaining is gray squirrels are taking over from native red squirrels. We need to figure out where the boundary is and how far they've encroached onto their territory. One sentence.
And then beat them back with big sticks.
Contraceptives, actually, because if there's one thing
Squirrel contraceptives. Okay,
if there's one thing gray squirrels are good at, it's making more gray squirrels.
I did not anticipate this conversation going in this direction.
I didn't think I was going to bring it up, but there you go.
There you go.
Okay, when we're identifying the need, it's very important to think about what problem your project solves. Okay, so whether it's giving red squirrels a happy life, whether it's identifying play spaces for children, whether it's, depending on which stream you're going in, what the problem is that your project solves. And within that, you need to be able to show that somebody has this problem, that it's a real thing, and that it's worth solving.
I think those are two super key points. I think who has this problem is like one everybody puts in their presentations, but the is this problem real, which is like the scale and the validation of the problem. And to be valid, I think it's important also to point out that the problem doesn't need scale to be valid.
Yes, it could be quite a small problem that you're solving, but if you have a clever way to solve a small problem or an annoyance for people, great.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by Frankie.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I have crazy dogs in the background. Okay, but I would add that is what makes it worth solving. That if you can prove it's a valid problem, then part of the solution to that is why it's worth solving.
Absolutely. And so the worst thing that could happen is that at the end I kind of go, I don't know, is this really an issue? Tell me why it's an issue up front. Okay. Tell a story. So most humans think very narratively. So if you can use some examples or tell a story or illustrate this problem for us, that will really help. So for example, you can say something like, when I was a child, my friends and I would often, break into this pitch to play football and get chased out by the groundskeeper or whatever. Immediately, it's very humanizing. And we're like, oh, yeah, I can kind of relate to that one. So if you can, if you say, but local kids could use this map generated from satellite data to find spaces where they can play football without trespassing or to schedule football games or whatever. It immediately humanizes it, and we have a picture in our head now of the people that this is going to help and the problem that this is going to solve. And so for a lot of people, as much as the data is important, the narrative is also quite important. As we said, you need to very clearly articulate how you meet the goals. Focus on how the project delivers value to EU space. It's great that it's going to solve problems for kids, or it's going to solve problems for squirrels, or it's going to solve a problem that you have, but how does this adding value to EU space? And so be very clear. If you are responding to call number 1, say, this will help people better understand their city and green spaces by ... Okay? If you are responding to call 2, very clearly articulate that it will enable city dwellers to stay active and keep their minds or bodies healthy by ... And again, if you are doing number 3, That's a little bit more nebulous because it's promoting the digitalization of rural spaces. But one of the key words there is sustainability. So if you can say something like this will promote sustainability by doing this, it makes it very clear to the judges exactly where they should be, where this one fits and how it meets the goals. If it's so great, why hasn't anyone else done it? I teach a lot of digital marketing classes, and I regularly get people coming to me saying basically, well, I'm going to make Facebook but better. And it's like, but Facebook is already making Facebook.
For farmers. I have a very, very long career in digital marketing and development, website development, and if I had €1 for every time somebody came to me with the amazing idea for Facebook, but for farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have married a farmer is where that would have gone, but yeah.
So think about, do some background research and see if there are similar projects to what you're doing, and be ready to explain why yours is different. And it can just be, you know, like obviously there are lots of companies and there are lots of products that are very, very similar, but know what your, in the marketing world, we would call this unique selling point. What's special about your one? And identify potential pitfalls and think about how to resolve them. Now, in a 5-minute pitch, I wouldn't go into like, here are the potential downsides and here are the potential negatives. But if there were questions or if anyone came back to you on this, it would be good to have those identified.
Pedge, I think we can assume that our competitors are not going to be pointing out the flaws in their own projects. So probably none of us need to point out the flaws in our own projects either.
Yeah. But again, be mindful of them in case somebody has a question and is like, didn't somebody try that? But, you know.
Yeah.
Measuring success is really important. As I said, I think that should be your last slide on sort of what are the projected outcomes and how will we measure success or a failure? So what to us is a really good outcome from this project? How will we know if this has been worthwhile? How will we know if this has been worth the investment? Like, what are we going to achieve with this? And again, I think that I would finish on that and have a nice high note of like hope for the future.
And money.
Yes. I know, again, this one, it's real common sense. Preparation is absolutely key in this. Practice what you'll say several times. Time it several times. We all tend to speak a little bit faster when we're kind of in a stressful adrenaline-y situation like this. But if your presentation is coming to 12 minutes consistently, you might have a problem trying to fit it into 5. It doesn't matter how fast you talk at that point. Don't try to learn or read a script. Okay? I would definitely, have talking points that you want to hit maybe. You could even have cue cards hidden somewhere below the screen or above the camera. But what you don't want is to be looking off like this and reading something the whole time. It also sounds very staged. The biggest issue with really, really learning a script off by heart is that if you miss a line or if you miss a word, you will be completely thrown.
Right.
So obviously there's a sweet spot, I guess, between really prepping it and really knowing your stuff and becoming quite stilted and confusing yourself, tripping yourself up. Excitement also has a sweet spot. You don't want to be too full on and almost like really high pitched and fast and nobody knows what's happening because you're so excited. And you also don't want to sound like you're not interested in your own project. If you're not interested in it, why am I interested in it? And it's not a natural thing to everybody. I remember having to give my first lecture ever to I think my first lecture ever was to cover someone who was sick. So it was 300 first years in UCC. And I just walked in there and I was like, fake it till you make it. Pretend like this is totally normal.
No big deal.
Yeah. Pretend like I do this all the time or they will eat me alive.
Yeah.
So there's a sweet spot that you need to hit, which is somewhere around passionate. I'm really, I'm emoting and I'm waving my hands, but I'm not just telling you about the thing. And it's, again, calmness, maybe not too much coffee right beforehand.
And confidence. I mean, I think that if you have practiced and your timings will fit into the allotted time, so you're not worried or anxious about running out of time, and you're not distracted by trying to regurgitate something that is now wildly panicking through your brain, then those three things are going to make you confident and buoy your excitement in a way that comes together really well. Like, I think that that is key.
So I think passionate but not frenetic is the sweet spot, really. And again, I know it's common sense, but it's just worth practicing. Record yourself. You know, we all have opportunity now to make our own little Zoom videos or whatever. I know it's really awkward to listen to your own voice or watch yourself on camera, but it really is worth seeing how other people are going to perceive you and what are the kind of points that you might want to. I recorded a podcast recently, and there's a video of it, and all I could think was, why am I doing this the entire time? So I know I talk with my hands, but if you have this kind of, if you know you have these tics, you can just keep your hands below the level of the Zoom, and I could be waving my hands around frantically, and you don't know as much. So recording yourself, playing it back, and seeing what it looks like can be really, really helpful. There's a Harvard Business Review article called How to Pitch a Brilliant Idea. And within that, they have a sub-article called How to Kill Your Pitch. And they suggest that there are 4 particular personas that will just kill a pitch. The first one is the pushover. And this is somebody who's not confident in their own idea and doesn't seem convinced by their own idea. So if the first thing they say is, we could do this, or we could not, we could also do it differently if you'd prefer, or we could use a different software if you thought that was better, or we could make it in white instead of black if that's what you think, that's the pushover persona. And it's like you don't have the confidence in your own plan or your own idea. Number 2 is the robot. And I think this one, unfortunately, is not down to the pitch or even the confidence in the pitch or anything like that. I think it's just down to the fact that it's weird to talk to a computer screen. And sometimes we tend to freeze up a little bit. And it's possibly even worse if you have a big fear of public speaking and it's a public event. But just having a very sort of, again, if you're not interested in your project, why would I be interested in it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Number 3 is the used car salesman, and I actually thought that was really interesting. It's someone who comes on way too strong and is like, you gotta do this, you gotta move now, this is the next big thing.
Don't miss this opportunity.
Yeah, click in the next 5 minutes to avail of this special offer, never again to be seen. It's too much. It's you know, and automatically as people, and I think even more so potentially as Irish people, we just start drawing back from that. We're like, what? No, I don't like it. Please stop. I remember working in the States and being asked in a store, you know, why do Irish people walk into the store and walk straight back out? And I was like, it's because a greeter jumps out at them, shouts, how's your day going? Would you like a basket? And they're just like, oh, and they're creeping out the back door, right? So I think particularly when you're pitching to Irish people, but even generally, you don't want to do too much like razzle dazzle. You want to also seem quite approachable and normal. Yeah. And then the charity case is the one where somebody basically tries to beg you to pitch them. Again, it shows sort of a lack of confidence in the idea. Yeah. Because you're saying like, my idea isn't really good enough, but please let me win, please. Like that's what they mean by the charity case. Yeah. And again, it's having confidence in your idea. Okay. So again, obviously those are sort of extreme personas, but it's just about avoiding those types of scenarios within the pitch and avoiding that type of language of even the used car salesman or the charity case language or the pushover. It's fine to present if you have in your plan, you know, these are 2 alternative options and we're going to examine these and see which one would work best. That's very different from like, I'm willing to change literally anything.
Also, especially like we're interested in trialing both of these and seeing which works better in the market or which one consumers prefer is very different than we've mocked this up in white, but if you guys like black better, because then you're selling out your idea. You're not investigating your idea, you're selling out, and that's very different.
Yes, if you start the pitch talking about the squirrel line and you end the pitch talking about football pitches for kids, like something's gone wrong there, right? You haven't had confidence in the squirrel idea, and you need to have that confidence.
And also, either the squirrels or the children are scarred for life.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It's not going to
Because you're going to be teaching squirrels how to play football, and it's going to be terrible.
It's a mess.
Like I said, they're really angry when you trap them. I know this from a friend's personal experience. So I was going to ask people to think about their one-sentence pitch, and maybe I guess you could type that in the chat for us, for example, if people thought that was helpful.
I was also going to hop on your exercise because this presentation is recorded and we are going to put it up on the Hackathon website, and there is going to be a sample deck that goes with this. But I'm also going to be including the development of your one-sentence pitch as a exercise for Friday night. So we will be asking teams that are formed by the Hackathon kickoff on Friday night to come to the Ireland welcome event ready to share their one-sentence pitch at the beginning of the welcome session for Ireland, so that we all get to meet each other, we get to know what teams are working on. And the other thing that I think is interesting in a development environment or a hackathon environment specifically is that it's very possible for your pitch to evolve over the course of the weekend. As you get your hands on data, your idea becomes more refined. You may do that famous pivot thing, which is like, okay, is pivot your least favorite word of the decade still?
I always show, I used to teach marketing for high-tech entrepreneurs, and I always used to show the scene from Silicon Valley where he's talking about companies that pivot, and he's also, the character Jared has also extremely sleep deprived, and he ends up just basically running around shouting, pivot! You know?
Yeah.
Would you be interested in an app that? And just making things up on the spot.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be really interesting if we ask teams to come on the Friday night with their one-sentence pitch on the Friday, and then we look at that again when they pitch to the judges on the Sunday to see whose product has evolved through the development process, because partly that is what we are here for.
And actually, just to relate it to something of my own, I know so many people who's PhD, like they've written the whole 80,000 words and then changed the title because they're like, oh no, that doesn't really fit anymore. So that question, as you're refining it, maybe that one-sentence pitch will evolve.
Ooh.
So did anyone give us an answer?
Yes.
How exciting.
It is so exciting.
Not all green spaces are equal. We're going to define the quality and attributes of green spaces, allowing urban planning to make better decisions. I like it.
That's super sexy.
Very nice.
All of urban planning is super sexy, though. Like, you can't lose with something that delivers maximum benefit for the biggest concentration of your population. Like, it's hard to not make that one fly.
No, that's great. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So immediately I'm like, I understand what you're saying. You know, it's the little scrub of green at the end of the street on the edge of the motorway is not as nice as the very nice park a few miles down the road or whatever. And I'm immediately like, okay, I can relate this to my own life, and I see how this would have value. And I'm interested in finding out more about how you're going to do that. So I think that's a really good example. Thank you very much, Cyril.
I would like to say, however, that if you are interested in developing pocket parks and what you're looking to do is identify that little scrub of underloved green land at the end of the roadway, then Dr. O'Sullivan is wrong, and you should do that.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it should be like tarred over. I'm saying like, gosh, it could be better. So I don't think that's what I said at all. Okay, let's pop on to the next slide. So I just want to talk a little bit about making a slide deck. Now, very kindly, Sabrina has, as she said, generated a little sample slide deck that's going to go up on the website with sort of the intro slide, you know, the sort of 5 slides that we talked about, a potential for an image slide, a potential for a graph slide, and then a sort of a thank you for the end that, again, you can put up just at the end of your presentation if there's any time left or if there's any questions or anything like that. So that will be available on the CASSINI website. Thanks very much for that, Sabrina. But again, I'm just going to draw attention to the fact that you're going to want to do about 5 slides. We've talked about what they're going to be. I would say very strongly, no nonsense. No slide transitions, no animations, no cute fonts. My heart hurts when I see things starting to zoom in from each side, and it's all, oh gosh, I absolutely hate that. And in fact, I used a textbook this year, and I downloaded some slides from it, and I copied content across from the slides from the textbook. And I was halfway through a lecture when this diagram suddenly started assembling itself, and I was so embarrassed for myself.
Avengers Assemble, yes. Also, I just want to say that anybody who uses Comic Sans in a professional presentation should not be funded for anything.
No.
Yeah.
No, Comic Sans is an abomination. And it is entirely for somebody to put a sarky note on the fridge in an office or something.
Yeah.
That is its only function in life. Yeah. I like, if we're getting technical, an open-faced sans serif humanist font.
I agree with you.
I particularly enjoy Calibri from the Microsoft stable.
So
but basically, keep it simple. Keep it clean. Somebody is probably joining in our Comic Sans bashing on the chat. I can't get it to pop up right now, but...
No papyrus. No
papyrus. Oh, God, no. It's the second worst font in the world. Well, Wingdings isn't great, let's be honest.
Wingdings does have a readability issue.
Yeah, Wingdings has but Wingdings also has a point in that, sometimes you might need a particular symbol. But yeah, I just don't make it cute. You're professionals. You're doing a professional presentation. Yeah. That being said, pictures are better than words. There are a lot of studies done on how people react with PowerPoints. And one of the things that will immediately happen, as soon as you change the slide, my attention shifts from you who's talking to that slide, and I am now looking at the slide. If it's a picture, my brain processes that much more quickly than a list of words. Okay, so that's one advantage. So for example, if you're talking about, I don't know, people walking through a forest for some reason holding books, that's a great picture. It illustrates what you're doing. Then you say heading and your one-line pitch, for example. That would be a great intro slide. Maybe it's those red squirrels, maybe it's those kids playing football, maybe it's the difference between a good space and a bad space in terms of your rating system. We say there's a very funny paper actually where someone works out that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then the videos that are at 30 frames per second are worth however many billion words or whatever. But it is true that it's much easier to process a cute image and one short sentence than, for example, something like this. And again, I'm sure we've all sat through presentations where there were slides like this. And I understand the temptation to make one because my work is so interesting. My story is so good. You're going to want to know all of this. Nobody can process this. I imagine, by the way, that you've probably started to read that slide rather than paying attention to what I'm actually saying, because your brain does that. So what I did was I copied and pasted a description from The Guardian on the PRISM spy program PowerPoints, which apparently were particularly horrendous PowerPoints. So the slides from the presentation have clip art, bubble diagrams, drop shadows, gradients. They look like the work of a drunken toddler, high on the potential of auto shapes and word arts. So that is a critique of the NSA's PRISM program briefing PowerPoint. But all I wanted there, you can go and read the full thing in The Guardian. It's quite funny. All I wanted there was just to show you it doesn't work. Okay, you would get a lot more out of this slide than you possibly could out of this slide.
Which I think also is a nod to another really important point that both of those two slides underscore, which is that under absolutely no circumstances should you ever rate off your slides. Mm-hmm. If that's super crowded, you may be able to, everything that was on that super crowded slide, you may be able to say in 60 seconds. Yes. But nobody can read that in 60 seconds. What they can do is read the slide with the two women on it, the heading and the one sentence encapsulation, like
And
the
in-
too long didn't read of the narrative that you are giving.
Exactly. And what I'm trying to say basically is that even if you can say all this, which is great, I will then be distracted by trying to read it and I won't hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So much better to keep it very minimal. So I have here, keep it simple. Keep it clean and legible and don't let it distract from your pitch. People automatically switch to reading the slide when it comes up. Okay. And then we also have avoid fake minimalism, just as an aside. Sometimes people make a really ugly, boring slide, and it kind of looks like you didn't care at all.
Yeah.
So don't go that far, but do avoid a very, very busy slide as well. So I said keep it clean but not dead.
This is like the Steve Jobs. Like, it's a little dated now. Like,
Yeah.
Steve Jobs did Apple AGM meetings using slides that looked like this at one point, and like everyone was like, wow, the impact. And now it's just like, it's footnotes I can't read.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Jobs was a weird dude. You should both shower and also consume more than just fruit. So like, let's not take everything he said as,
You could choose to treat your own cancer too.
You could do that by not eating fruit. Not by eating fruit,
just
by doing chemotherapy.
Passing thought.
Yeah. So as I said, images are definitely your friend. Okay. Nice big fonts are definitely your friend. If you're using images, make sure they are clean and crisp. Okay. There's nothing worse than a big, blurry, pixelated image. If you're struggling to find something like Pixabay, for example, has rights-free images, and you can search for, kids playing football, red squirrels, park, whatever we need. I know I keep coming back to these same examples. But, my mother still refers to the person who did that PhD as Emily Squirrels.
Oh God.
So you want to have plenty of contrast in your slides, and you want to avoid any red-green contrast because that is the most common form of color blindness. So just be mindful of like kind of accessibility and things like that. Keeping the fonts big and keeping a nice contrast between them. Again, black on white, white on black, blue. Red font is always pretty hard to read. Green font is always pretty hard to read. Anything where there's both green and red is going to be hard for a significant segment of the population. I believe it's about 1 in 10 men are completely red-green colorblind. So it's a significant enough population that you would just need to avoid that. So
we should, by the way, totally design traffic lights that way, so that 1/10 of 1/2 of our population absolutely cannot see them. That's a great idea.
Luckily, they can learn which one's on top and which one's on the bottom. So it's literally the worst possible combination for a safety situation. So again, I've just taken an example of like a very clear bar chart where the categories, the columns are going to be very, very clear. And so it's all, when you're looking at like data I could give a whole lecture on data representation like right now off the bat. We'll start with Florence Nightingale. Okay.
No.
Very important. And the Crimean War. It's really interesting stuff.
If you want to know what it's like to go drinking with Dr. O'Sullivan, Florence Nightingale and the Crimean War and data representation is what it's like to go drinking with Dr. O'Sullivan.
I like tangents. But I just again, you probably have some ideas that maybe are best graphically represented. Again, the less words you can use, probably the better on slides. But just make sure that if you are putting up a graph, that I'm not squinting at it trying to figure out what's going on for your whole presentation. So again, I sat through something yesterday where I spent the entire time literally doing this up against the screen, and like, it's not great. I came away kind of going, oh my gosh, I have both a headache and a new wrinkle, I think. So like it's just, again, keeping these things clean, keeping them clear is really important. Again, a nice clear pie chart. You get this with pie charts, people will do them in like shades of gray or use the same color repeatedly around it. I have to say on this one, to be fair, it's an MTU one. There's like 3 shades of blue. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I would pull in some more primary colors.
Yeah, green. Purple.
Yeah, it's probably time to break out some greens, purples, maybe even an orange.
It's probably time to go to our tertiary brand colors.
Yes, I think those might be our tertiary brand colors. Okay. Unfortunately, I think that's the problem there. But yeah, I think just to make it very clear, from an accessibility point of view, from a readability point of view, and from a not distracting from what you're saying point of view, keep it really clean. So the last sort of thing that I have for you guys was an exercise to look at some big name pitch decks and see how they describe themselves. I don't know if you prefer me, Sabrina, to leave this time for Q&A.
I don't know how many people we have, so I don't know if we have any questions.
Okay. So what I've done is I've included on the file here on the PowerPoint the Dropbox pitch deck. Matchbox is what Tinder was originally called when they pitched. Uber, and then on the second one I have Monzo, which is a challenger bank in the style of Revolut. I have Air Bed and Breakfast, which is now Airbnb, and then I have the greatest pitch deck of all time, the Fire Festival pitch deck.
Oh, can we just do the Fire Festival one, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Also, Can I just say that today I learned why Tinder's called Tinder. Very clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just saying at this, we'll finish my slides here and I'll pull up the Fire Festival pitch deck. But just to say thank you very much for listening. I'll be available on Saturday at 2 p.m. I think. If anyone has any questions, if anyone wants me to look at their pitch deck or run their pitch past me, I'm quite willing to do that. Please just let me know. Okay, let me stop the share and find the particular.
Also, if you drop in to Dr. O'Sullivan's office hours, there's a good chance she will have dogs with her.
It's quite possible.
It's quite possible.
Now, why can't I get this? I need to stop the screen share.
I think you did because I can see you.
I'm just having trouble with my computer for some reason.
Well, because you're doing a live presentation, why would you not have trouble with your
computer?
computer?
It's obviously all going to go horribly wrong at that point, isn't it? Okay, here we go. I'm looking at my little folder of pitch decks, and I have my Fire Festival pitch deck. And I will pull this up, and we can see how many of the rules they obeyed and how many they broke horribly.
Are you going to give people the tweet-sized elevator pitch summary for what Fire Festival was?
That would be really hard based on their pitch deck. Okay? It is really difficult from this pitch deck to think about what exactly they were trying to achieve, other than ripping a lot of people off and stranding them in the Bahamas. I don't know.
Okay, no, but really, you have to tell people what this was, because not everybody
Okay, so do people not know this? Okay, so there is a great documentary if you want to see this. There's actually two great documentaries. One is called Fire Festival, and one is called Fire, I believe. Okay, so one person has seen the documentary. Basically, it was a music event to be held in Grand Zuma in the Bahamas, I believe. And it was organized by a sort of a serial entrepreneur and the 90s rapper Ja Rule. And they spent an enormous amount of money on, particularly on influencer marketing. So it's really fascinating. It's also fascinating to watch the two documentaries because one was made by a company called, and I apologize here, Fuck Jerry is the name of the company, which was one of their marketing partners. So it's very interesting to see the different perspective on where the blame is put when one of the marketing partners is one of the producers of the documentary versus when they're not. So this was a festival. People arrived there and pretty quickly it started to blow up on Twitter and on Instagram. It was absolutely fascinating to watch an absolute car crash happen in person. Basically, it was supposed to be luxury glamping with chef-prepared meals and A-list headliners. I think it was supposed to be Major Lazer and somebody else. What they ended up with was Blink-182 cancelling on them, some FEMA disaster tents, not all of which were actually put up, and cheese sandwiches in a box, as in like a slice of easy singles on toast. So it was an absolute disaster, but we have their pitch deck preserved for posterity. So just let me know if you can see me going through this.
Yes, all 43 slides of it.
43 slides with a lot of confidentiality. There was no need, guys. It wasn't that great. So this is presumably their one-sentence pitch. Fire defines how we engage audiences, consume media, and share content by connecting consumers, celebrities, and brands through live experiences. What?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. It does not say festival to me.
No, so they did have an app, which was apparently doing okay, which was about booking celebrities. If you were ultra rich and you wanted like to book Ja Rule for your party, you could book them through this app.
Cool.
That was where Fire started out.
Okay.
So Fire bookings, as you can see, they have the problem. Recorded music
so
revenue is
much
under
problem.
pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, recorded music pressure is revenue is under pressure. Artists are seeking new ways to earn revenue as the business model is disrupted, and they're going to do live industry bookings for people. So you can see you can book musicians, athletes, models, or influencers to basically come and hang out at your house.
Wow.
And yeah, that was basically their revenue model. Then we quickly move on to Fire Festival. So they have an idea for a product, and now they have another idea, which is somehow tangentially related to the first idea.
Okay.
And this, I guess, is the one sentence pitch for that. Come seek, for searching is the foundation of fortune. What if we reimagined what it means to attend a music festival? They certainly did, guys. This was truly amazing.
I mean, people had to be airlifted out of this event.
Yes. People had to be evacuated by like the National Guard. Yeah, it was really, they did really reimagine what it was going to be like. They said they were going to be Coachella but better.
Right. Yeah.
They were more like kind of Hurricane Katrina, but more tragic in a way, because it was just.
But on a practical level, if they had actually said we want to do Coachella but better,
that's what they did basically. But
then been able to deliver on that.
Yeah.
I mean, even just saying Coachella but better, and here's the reasons we can do it better, would have been a much better pitch, and also 5 slides.
Also, I think you might slightly be getting into Facebook for Farmers there.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like it's Coachella better. How's it better? Because it's on an island with no toilets. No. So yes, they were going to have this cultural experience of the decade. They were going to have Major Lazer as their headliner. Then this is where they spent all their money, basically. These are their Fire starters.
They spent all of this money making hot girls on Instagram talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and come to their island and be bitten by pigs, apparently.
Oh, I forgot about the wild pigs!
Yeah, and the fact that one of the models was badly bitten by one of the wild pigs. So yes, this is like, so they've got some influencers involved. Oh, they've got some more influencers involved. Oh, they've got some more influencers. Like this, 3 pages of their pitch deck, 4 pages of their pitch deck are given over to the influencers that they have hired.
I feel like a lot of those influencers have something in common.
Do they? Does Marshall or Corey or even Alan or Brandon fit the general profile of those influencers in any way?
I don't think that's the vibe they were going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole page again on Kendall Jenner and getting a post from her. Okay. It does say, is Fire Festival the new Coachella? We don't know who said that, but somebody apparently did.
Somebody's ma'am.
Yeah. The viral marketing campaign pulled me in, but the promise of a life-changing experience hooked me. Okay. Their year 1 achievements, as you can see, it's all media impressions. There's no evidence that they've ever put on a successful concert, or that they have any concert making experience, let alone campsite making experience, or culinary experience, or logistics experience, or anything like that. Brand synergy. There's some sort of a thing.
I also feel like people who use the word synergy should also not be funded.
Yeah, it's probably a bit dodgy. One of my favorite things here is if you look down the bottom, one of their sponsored, one of their key partners, Samsung is pending, but they've definitely got Magnesis, which was a discount card that the founder started.
Great.
Yeah, it was like Magnesis books, basically, you could buy and put on this card and whatever.
Okay.
And there was going to be a townhouse as well in New York. It was another pie in the sky sort of a company. Again, they've been given this land. There's questions over whether they were given any land, but also, is it convenient to put a huge event on an island that has no airport, no plumbing, no electricity? you know. Financials, please see appendix. I think we'd all like to see that appendix. And then, yeah, it goes on to the fire squad. And we can see Billy, who went to jail. Jarul, who did not go to jail, but we all have questions as to why. And some of the many characters you may recognize from the documentary, and the borderline obscene things they were prepared to do to try and make this happen. So, yeah, and then you can see some of their partners, and then again more pictures of models.
Again, their aspirations seem to just have so much in common.
Yeah. So you can see there, they haven't really explained to us, like, why are these people the right people? Okay, they haven't explained to us what the project is, right? It's a concert, but it's on a deserted island, and we have no idea how this is going to work. Billy, his whole blurb is that he founded Magnesis and Spling. Two huge brands there, obviously. I've heard of Magnesis only because of Fire Festival. Jarul, again, it talks about his Grammys and his TV personality. There's no mention of logistics or somebody who has, for example, run a festival. Okay. There's somebody here who's made award-winning digital products. There's somebody here who worked with Google in music partnerships. There's somebody here who was on Shark Tank. There's somebody here who's a lead engineer at Vice and Condé Nast. There's no mention of why you would put these people in charge of a music festival, right? Yeah. There's nobody where we say, okay, this person was the head of sound engineering at Madison Square Garden for 10 years, and then they went and did the same thing in a deserted area of Nairobi or something, which is essentially the skill set we're looking for here. Yeah.
To be fair, it's quite a rarefied skill set.
Yeah, you would have to say. Yeah. It's not clear what the benefit is. Okay, again, we have a quote saying it's Coachella but better. Okay, how is it better? What's other than all these aspirational quotes about how we're going to seek what we're finding or whatever? Like, what is specifically going to for these potential investors? What is the payoff for me? And then so really they haven't followed any of my rules, and that's probably where it all went wrong.
Also, they hired somebody whose name is M. David. Upper left corner, no, I mean, okay, this is terrible.
I mean, to be fair, again, I have a wonderful book written by somebody who changed their name to 6 so that they would come first in every bibliography.
Fair. That's a strategic decision we can all get behind, though.
Yeah, it's literally the number 6.
Nope.
And every time anyone reads my work, they're like, why is there a digit 6 in here? And you're like, it's meant to be there. Anyway, so that's the Fire Festival one, but as I said, the other slide decks for things that are perhaps less disastrous are also on there and worth taking a look at. Okay. But again, bear in mind those are for investors to sit down and dive into quite deeply. This is 5 minutes in and out.
So I think we should ask if anybody has any questions. Caroline or Cyril, do you have any questions? Okay, if we don't have questions, then you can pop in at office hours on Saturday, and otherwise, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for doing this. It's brilliant. This presentation and the deck to go with it will both be online. And thank you very much, Dr. Sullivan, for A, coming and doing an excellent job walking us through this, and B, doing a superlative job of repping MTU. Way to go.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. So as I said, available at 2 p.m. on Saturday for any questions that you do have, or if you want to run through your presentation with me. Otherwise, best of luck, everybody.
Thanks.